Hello everyone. So in this lecture we will discuss about policy push in real estate and manufacturing sectors. So we will try to understand and analyze the scenario what is happening in this particular area. So if you see like how this evolution of like Indian manufacturing sector has actually progressed over like a different times. So majorly this period is actually divided into like four segments. The first one being like a pre-independence area or the time. So at this time actually most of the products were handicraft based or they were majorly like exported in large numbers before the like British era started. The first actually charcoal fired iron making was attempted in the Tamil Nadu in 1830, and then India's like a present day largest conglomerate, this the Tata Group, started by Jamshedji Tata in 1868. Then the slow growth of actually Indian industry due to like regressive policies of that time, and there was like Indian industry grew during the two World War periods in an effort to support like a British in the war. So there was entirely like a different kind of scenario as you can see over here. India was not actually independent country, and it was actually driven by the British for their own benefit and interests. And the two world wars actually they were the actually driving forces, and India was majorly actually utilized as a resource country from where they actually sourced a lot of like resources, and India was extensively actually exhausted for its resources. Well, later on actually things change. India got actually independence. Let's see like what happened during this period from like a 1948 to like till like a like globalization period of 1991. So in during this period Indian government's actually focus was actually into developing and growing like a basic and heavy industries. Okay, and they started with actually with the concept of these 5 years plan. You may have heard actually of these Panchavarshia Yojanas. So these were actually plans of like on the 5 year basis on the regular interval. They were actually framed, implemented, and reviewed. So this is how actually the independent India started actually functioning to develop its like a industrial sector. Then a comprehensive industrial policy resolution announced in like a year of like 1956, and iron and steel industry, heavy engineering, lignite projects, and of fertilizer projects were actually taken as the main like a basic like industries, and industrial planning and policies were actually framed to promote actually these industries. Why steel? Because the steel is actually backbone. We have discussed in the previous the LC actually lecture. Steel is one of the actually backbone actually materials for like today's actually the technology based these actually manufacturing. So steel was actually one of the very important actually materials to start with for like a development and growth of the India. Then focus actually shifted to agro industries as a result of many factors. While license Raj actually grew into the country, and public sector enterprises grew more inefficient, the industries actually lost their competitiveness. So what happened during the this period of time? It's a very famous actually a story of this license Raj, like how these the government actually employees and the authorities, they actually kept actually files pending for processing and all that. As a overall actually this lacoon actually industrial sector actually suffered, and industries actually lost some of their like a competitiveness in face of the like a world. So the several other economies, several other countries who actually started functioning as an independent countries in and around the same time of as like India, they grew actually much faster, and they actually went quite ahead. But at least India started its coping up with the new actually world order, and post like 1991 the globalization reforms which actually the government of India adopted at this point of time. So the Indian markets were actually open to the global competition with the LPG reforms, and gave way to the private sector entrepreneurs as a license Raj came to an end. So actually privatization was actually encouraged and promoted, and the public distribution systems were also kind of refined, and the markets were actually open. So the Indian market, the consumers, the people of India, they had actually option of like a buying stuff which was made like elsewhere out of India as a normal like a consumer product. Earlier, it was actually tightly controlled, and any product which used to be like imported in India, heavy duty was actually charged as a like a import duty. Then services became the engines of the growth, while the industrial production saw volatility in growth rates during this period. So service sector was actually one of the sectors which got actually evolved quite a lot. So this actually sector saw a huge jump in terms of like creating actually new service sectors, and increasing the footprint, increasing the volume of it. So this was actually one of the major actually outputs of the post actually globalization reforms in India. And MSMEs, like a micro, small, and like a these medium enterprises in the country, were actually given a push through government's policy and measures. So the smaller size, small scale actually industries and manufacturing units were actually given a lot of promotion, because before that there were actually major companies only in the government sector, and very few actually companies in the private sector. There was actually very little amount of actually small number of actually such MSME units were existing at that point of time. So this sector was actually given a very strong push after these 1991 reforms. And in the present times, if you see, these are the four actually major actually pushes which government and the state governments are also actually insisting on, to like a promote like a make in India campaigns, to actually manufacture and fabricate in India. Okay, so this was the one of the actually major actually policy pushes which has actually adopted by the current government and the previous governments also. So this was launched to actually attract manufacturers and foreign direct investments from different countries in the India. So these several actually multinational companies, they came, and they actually started they actually invested a huge amount of like a capital, and they started manufacturing units, production units in India. Secondly, government is aiming to actually establish India as like a global manufacturing hub through various policy measures and incentives to specific actually manufacturing sector. So like a software industry, IT industry has emerged as one of the prime industries which India has actually attained a huge actually capacity and power in this area, and India is actually giving providing its services to most of the actually countries from across the world. 70% of manufacturing units under the private sectors. And then GVA at the basic prices from like a manufacturing grew at a CAGR of 4.46 percent to financial year like a 19 AE at the current like a prices. So there was a huge actually jump observed from like a previous actually times to actually this particular time. So this, well, there are a lot of like other repercussions also. So all of this like a major like economic boost and major boost to the growth and development in the industrial sector is going to have like a equally proportionate impact on the like a ecology. So the question is whether India as a like a country is also prepared to handle actually those impacts. So we will see in the like a in the coming like a lectures, but first we will try understanding the this scenario, like how it's shaping up the this industrial sector in India. So the notable trends, if you see, there are like four notable trends observed in like a Indian market actually in the recent times. So this is like a the with the help of the like a policy and these like a decisions, like there were several like ACJ special economic zones were actually established, and specific sector of like a manufacturing or production units were given priority, like a given like a one area, and a whole ecosystem was actually economic ecosystem was actually developed to help them actually establish themselves at one point of one place at one point of time, and they are giving like successful results. So these actually ACZs and such like a units were actually majorly established for like their export driven actually purposes. So now India is able to actually supply a huge number of like items with a huge number of like a volume, even like a service based actually renderings is India is able to render to the entire world actually currently. The next actually notable trend India has actually recently seen in the recent years is the like a additive manufacturing based actually 3D printing based actually innovations and products. So there are several like educational institutions also from India who are developing into R&D and developing into like a commercializable actually products and entities. The next one is like a internet of things. So with the help of the communication and telecom industry, with the huge growth in this particular sector in the Indian market, India has become actually powerhouse in telecom actually businesses, and India is one of the countries where the lowest rates of telecom are available in the entire world, as like a comparative basis. And internet based things and other like allied actually technologies, they are finding actually place in the Indian market, and there are several technology based actually interventions which are being developed in the India actually currently. And advanced robotics, so in this area also like India is working very fast to develop like a automation plants, automation like a manufacturing units automated, like a operators for like a several types of like a consumer based services and things. So these are the actually recent trends which are observed in the like a Indian market, and these are the actually areas which we as a designer, engineer and architect can refer directly and can actually try for like a intervening and working into these areas for actually maximizing our like exposure with the industry and with the market. The kind of strategies which are like adopted to boost like a such level of like a economic success is like using like a digital technologies, using like a telecom, using like a other mediums of like a communication, internet based communication, faster communication, etc. Focusing on the like a backward integration. So India is actually working on integrating the other like a strata of the society, the second strata of the society also, like which is not so able to cope up with the like other half of the society. It focuses on integrating actually the society for like the growth in the like for the like times to come. It is trying to focus on the collaboration, also establishing collaboration between like a technological like a houses, between like a research institutions, between like a different countries also. So India is partnering with the several countries to forge actually collaborations in like several R&D areas. So what are the actually, if you see like this particular table, it talks about India's high potential manufacturing value chains have attained actually various levels of global competitiveness in the recent times. So if you see over here, like even in the renewable energy actually generation, okay, India has actually pioneered its technology and education, and now India is one of the actually pioneering actually countries which is working into the this area. And apart from this, there are several other these many sectors also you can see in the aerospace and defense. So recently defense actually is one of the areas which have been like a conventionally reserved only for the government sector related like companies to produce actually defense related products. But this is one of the actually critical sectors which the government of India has recently opened for the private players also, where they can actually design, where they can develop and mass produce actually markets for the products for the like a consumption by the Indian military. In electronics and semiconductors also, India has grown very fast, and it has lost like a rapid growth in this particular area. And computing power, and whether it is like providing like laptops and other computing capabilities, so India has actually grown quite faster, and a number of like facilities are coming up in India for like producing like a semiconductor devices and other like processing chips, etc. On the other like a conventional like a manufacturing areas, if you see like a furniture, leather, rubber, apparel, textiles, metal and other like a agriculture and allied actually products and services, chemicals and allied products, so there are also like a medium range actually growth is like a registered. And other like a conventional in the vehicle and vehicle components, capital goods and pharmaceutical, India has also registered a significant growth. And particularly in the pharmaceuticals, India is one of the countries which is supplying, just if I talk about one product for example like vaccines, so India is producing at least 60% of the world's supply of the vaccine as far as like the last year is concerned. So India has actually developed humongous capacity of the manufacturing of like a medical things also, medical items also. So India's GDP actually has till the like last year in the year like till year of like 2019, after like a period of like a globalization. During this period, India has actually registered a handsome actually rate of growth in terms of like a GDP. And yeah, so overall in the terms of the growth in the GDP and the productivity, India has actually grown significantly, though there is a huge amount of actually improvement is needed in the net employability factor also, which I think a governmental and the governmental agencies must look into. As a sector wise, if you see, like these are the sectors which are actually pioneering the Indian actually market. And if you see that the chemicals, agriculture and food, electronics and semiconductors, they are in the top of the chain, in the like a value chain actually series over here. And in the growth opportunity, if you see that the domestic consumption itself of India is a very robust and very like a big. So even if like along with the growing like a going globally, India itself is a big market for its own like a products, and there is a huge scope of like a consumption expanding the market further. Well, there are some like a potential like areas, potential sectors also for like a future gain. So you can see over here like a how much of like a value they have added over the time. So chemicals and chemicals actually sector is one of the biggest ones, which has actually a biggest share in the domestic market itself. Over here you can see with this black actually patch, and overall this belongs to the chemical, then comes agriculture, food, electronics, semiconductor, etc. Okay, likewise here three go actually growth boosters they have been identified over here as spanning like a 43 high productivity business opportunities, and they overall in an overall sense they are contributed around like a 2.5 trillion actually US dollars to the economy by year 2030. That's a huge volume, and I think if India continues this pace of actually growth of its GDP, then India may surpass actually several other like a bigger countries who have been conventionally holding actually the top actually numbers in terms of like the growth of the economy. And yeah, so disaster if you see, there are some actually preparedness also is needed actually to sustain and to minimize the actually impact to this whole actually ecosystem which has developed in the like a recent year and recent decades. So some like corrective measures are also actually required to take care of actually such things. So the preparedness is needed, mitigation plans are needed, a response actually a response frame a response actually framework should be actually prepared, and recovery mechanisms and resilience, these things actually should be worked out in case like there is some impact on the economy or the overall like well-being of the people of the India. So the one this recent impact what we are seeing is because of this COVID scenario. So quickly we can have a look like how this COVID actually which originated in China has actually caused a kind of a catastrophic effect in India as well as across the world. Almost every country is now suffering due to this virus. So well it has actually severe impact on the economy also, and you may have read in the news India has registered actually growth of like a minus 23% for its like a economy in the like a previous like a quarter in this year. So this is really unfortunate. So we need to actually prepare ourselves, we need to have actually resilient plan so that we can take care of society, our people, our community in a very sustainable way. Okay, so major actually consumer actually cities and places if we see. So if you see there's just for like a office supplies, if you see Bangalore actually consumes 25%. Okay, Hyderabad 24%, NCR like a 20%, and so on. And in the future supply split if you see across the segments, so SEZ beds and non-SEZ beds also is there. So SEZ are like a close to like a 27%, one quarter almost, and the other non-SEZ. So actually government needs to focus actually on this non-SEZ organizations also, manufacturing units also, so that they can also enjoy actually the benefits and relaxation with their counterparts from the SEZs they actually enjoy. So well, government of India is currently creating actually a land pool. Okay, you can see these figures over here: 4,61,589 hectares of like a piece of land as big as twice the size of the Luxembourg, as a like a place where we can host actually industries who are moving out of the China in the like a recent times. There are actually several policy based actually changes which has come in the neighboring country, and because of this actually several companies multinational companies, they are actually moving out of that country right now. So how India can actually take this as an opportunity and work it for its like a benefit, along with maintaining its like a sustainable like a growth and development, that is actually challenge what we have. So here in the numbers you can see like how much of like a FDI is attracted by India, China, and Vietnam. Vietnam is also one of the actually major countries which is has in the recent times emerged as a major hub of like manufacturing and other stuff. Well, in the India, if you see like how like a state governments and central government are like a planning to develop like a industrial corridor, so they have created actually this corridor connecting from Kolkata to New Delhi till like a Bombay, and then to the Bangalore and Chennai over here you can see. And this is the like a Andhra Pradesh, the Vizag, this is a port city over here on the shore of the Bay of Bengal over here. So how they're actually connecting the different actually ports, different actually manufacturing hubs of the India, okay, different actually transportation hubs of the India, from where actually these manufactured goods can actually go out of the country. So these are the and the second actually map you can see over here, these are the actually smart cities which are actually planned by the government of India. So in the first picture the few number of actually smart cities are actually in the plan of like their execution, while others will follow very soon. Okay, so the presence of like industrial and transport infrastructure, if you see, so this is a called as a, like a golden quadrangle. So which these are the actually four major actually nodes of like a India on the like a geographical plan you can see over here, which India is actually connecting to create its like a industrial corridor. So on these lines only major actually industrial corridors and major actually transport corridors are actually coming up, where there will be like a dedicated freight carriage corridor also on which actually double tier freight trains can also run, very large capacity actually trains also can run. So this is actually a preparedness from India we can see. And these are the actually 10 top states from India who have the actually highest employability. You can see starting from like the Andhra Pradesh, Delhi, Gujarat, this is given in the alphabetical order. So these are actually 10 places. So majorly actually southern India, western India, and part of like this northern India, including these 2 3 states over here, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, and Punjab. So they are under the highest actually number with the employability actually quotient. Okay, so this is the actually last slide of this lecture over today. So India has actually adopted a very fast pace of like a growth to increase its like a GDP, to involve actually every citizen of India to be party into this whole actually phenomena of growth and development. And in the year of like a 2019, you may have come across this news like India has surpassed the economies of France and the United Kingdom, and it is on the way to actually behind this Germany and Japan, which you can we can see over here. And it is projected by the year of like a 2025, 2026, or by 2027, okay, we may be able to surpass. So with the based of the hopes for the Indian economy and a sustainable growth and development, we will close this lecture right here. Thank you all.